welcome everyone to Watch Challenge. On each episode, we challenge ourselves to find and watch a film of a particular type and then report back the results to each other and you fine listeners. My name is Mike Wendt.
And I'm Aaron Spears. This episode's challenge it is the season, Mike. It is Oscar time.
Yes. One of my favorite times of the year.
What better way to take a look at Oscars than like all those ones that have been snubbed? That have never been, didn't get either their just desserts as far as any nominations, or maybe the film did get some nominations, but what the hell, not the right ones, or just didn't win even though they were nominated. Which I will say, we generally, our approach is usually more like, let's celebrate, the discoveries that are out there in world cinema throughout the years. So we do skew, I think, positive for the most part here. Let's, there's so much good stuff to talk about. This one may get a little angry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, obviously, with the breakdown of the Academy, oftentimes, as from what I've read, and I think it's been that way ever since it was instituted, is about 60% male, and they're usually that the median age is about 70 or so. So
you say median age?
That's what
Whoa.
A good majority of the members are old. Not to say an old bias. Much respect for so many of those craftspersons that are out there. But
there's young blood in Hollywood,
right? Their taste, sometimes they have a certain taste, or they have, or maybe they're influenced by advertising campaigns or something. But for whatever reason, yes, there are certain things that get completely overlooked, and who knows, maybe some of these things that we think are horribly overlooked are, maybe they missed it by just like 5 votes or something like that. And there's one podcast that I listen to that hopes that once 100 years of the Academy's been instituted, that they will, because it's been 100 years and nobody's probably alive, that they will release the vote tallies. So like maybe you can find out if did Wings win the first Best Picture by overwhelming margin, or was it by a handful of votes?
Yeah, or was it a squeaker?
Who knows if they'll ever do that? It would be sweet, though, I think.
Interesting. Yeah. I actually have a little bit of information, which we'll go over with my main pick. So sometimes there is information that comes out. And I should also say, too, I'm deferring to you for Oscar history and whatnot, because for some reason as a movie guy, and I don't know if it was just like my shitty punk rock attitude when I was a teenager, but when I got into movies, everybody in my family just assumed like, oh, you're a big Oscar guy. So they would like call me up at the time or send me emails like, oh, I got an Oscar poll. What should I pick? I'm like, I'm not that guy. Except for a brief bit in the 90s when like a lot of the indie boom was happening and a lot of the previous episode, a lot of Sundance darlings were getting Academy love. I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I was into it then, but honestly, I think working at the theater too, I always closed on Sunday. So I didn't watch the Oscars for a couple decades. I would just see the clips on YouTube. If something funny happened, somebody got smacked, somebody read out the wrong movie title, I'd go and watch the clips. So that's, we got 2 different interesting points of view, I think, going into this one.
Oh yeah. I'm big, like Oscar parties, have gone to one probably since college at least, but, and a lot of times I'll do the pools, and many times I have won. Sometimes I will purposely pick something wrong so I don't win, so I don't seem like a jerk.
But is it a true contest then if you're throwing it? Come on.
Well, there's sometimes like maybe I'm like, oh, I would really love if this person wins, so I'll just put that one, even though
gotcha. Okay.
Conventional wisdom, or at least from all the pundits, which there are way too many now.
Yeah, that's true.
There's like more pundits for the Oscars than there are for like presidential elections, which is kind of funny to me.
It's such an easy thing to have an opinion on too, I think. So
yes.
Yeah, I should say up to through college, I was not above like an Oscar party, but it was not something I was ever good at, I guess, as picking the winners. And a lot of times I was just like, I didn't see most of these, which actually this year I'm doing pretty solid, and I wasn't that great at keeping up during 2022, but so far I think I'm on track to get a lot of the stuff checked off in the next week or so.
Now, for the years that you worked at Cedar Lee,
Mm-hmm.
was I mean, because they always got almost every Oscar nominee. Like
Yes, we
that
would.
didn't really give you like that didn't really like get your pique your interest or like even further, or is it just kind of just like, hey, it's another, a dime a dozen kind of thing?
No. I didn't have. So I've obviously I'm a fan of the art of cinema. So like
Sure,
anything that
sure.
gets people talking about the movies, all that. I think you may have touched on something here that I hadn't really thought too much about, and that is being an art house theater. Yeah, we would get as best we could. Oh God, bookings always sucked because the nominations come out that Tuesday, and we couldn't get to our bookings on Monday because we didn't know who was gonna,
Right.
win, what movies we needed to get in. But it would always boost attendance in a great way. And there was a lot of people hanging out. They want to talk about the movies afterwards. Hey, I'm your guy. Like, let's talk about these movies here. And also, I could just watch them for free because I'm already at work
Right.
there. So I was up to speed on them through the years, but maybe just not even week, just day after day of like my job being around all of this Oscar talk for all of the weeks from nomination to awards. I think it may have just killed it a little bit for me.
Yeah. No, I totally understand,
Yeah.
because then everybody has their opinions and everybody, oh, this is definitely going to win, or yeah.
Right.
No, I could see where that could get annoying.
And it would also steer me in the wrong direction for Oscar pools because I was in the very small sample size of, art house film goers in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. Well, like, of course, movie X was going to win. And you're like, that didn't win. I'm like, that's what everybody's been talking about. But, just depends on who you're talking with there. But, well, let's start off with this year. This year, the nominations are out for what are we at, 90?
The 95th.
95th. Yeah. Okay, so in 5 more years, we'll test your theory. I'm on board with that. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
But 95th nominations are out. Any surprises for you, Mike? Any snubs from this year that we need to mention right off the top?
I mean, I was mostly happy with the 10 features that got nominated for Best Picture, but there is like right now on Twitter is a group of us that call ourselves the Babylon Hive. And so when Babylon was not named one of the 10 best pictures, I was frankly pissed off. And actually, there was somebody sharing the clip on Twitter of the. Have you seen Babylon?
I have not, but I am also
okay.
upset.
Okay.
So.
Well, this is not to spoil it for anybody, but there is this one particular scene where, and I might even talk about another episode, but Margot Robbie's character, it's transitioned from silent films to talkies.
Mm-hmm.
And she is starring in her first talkie, and she's supposed to hit this X mark where the microphone is, because at the time they didn't have movable boom mics just yet. And she keeps missing her mark. And the AD is like trying to be patient, but then crew members start sneezing. They actually, and the cameraman who's in this soundproof,
like the refrigerator
box,
thing. Yeah.
Yes, soundproof box, and it's hot, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm having heart palpitations." So the AD starts saying, like, like, "Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up!" So this clip got like spread around Twitter when it was not named one of the best.
Yeah, I did see that clip going on, but I didn't know context because.
Oh God, yeah, it's so funny. I mean, it's like like if you've seen Singing on the Rain, which is like very good film.
Yeah,
it's kind of like an R-rated version of that.
I'm on board. Holidays got crazy, and then there was 2 weeks I was trying to get out to see it, and it was only playing at like 9:45 p.m.
Yeah,
I was like, well, fuck, like I have to get my kids on the bus in the morning. I can't do 3 hours at that point. So I was hoping Tuesday when those nominations come out, they're going to add some screenings, and it won't only be at like 9:45 whatever at night.
I'm kind of hoping it becomes one of those movies that plays like once a month, like Rocky Horror or something.
That would be great. Yeah,
but that might be too much pie in the sky.
It's a weird world. You never know.
Right.
I was a little surprised. So one of the categories I always like looking at for the Oscars is Best Original Screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like over the years, and especially since Jordan Peele's feature film career has taken off.
Yeah.
I think there's been renewed interest in like, hey, the newer stuff, maybe up and coming auteurs or people that are really pushing the boundaries with what we can do in the storytelling are rewarded in an original screenplay or adapted as well. But
Yeah.
usually that original one, I think, is always really interesting to look at. And I went to that one this year because I was really hoping for. I mean, honestly, I kind of thought Nope would be in there. Like they've been celebrating Jordan
Oh,
Peele's like writing,
absolutely.
if not his directing. So I was like, oh, okay, well that's not in there. I was really surprised. What's her name? The star Kiki Palmer wasn't in there. Like that was
Yeah.
I don't know, like great roles throughout there, but like she just like pulled that movie together for me. Like if she wasn't there, like the energy level for me at least would have been way down
Oh, yeah.
on Nope.
Her charm
Oh,
in
just
that movie.
effortless in that. Yeah.
Yes.
I
It's
mean, not actually effortless, but it came across as so just like boom, man,
yeah.
what a spark here.
She just made
Uh,
me smile the whole movie,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah,
Even
absolutely.
even though, like, the scenes, like, if she's, like, in terror, it's just, like, she still made me smile just 'cause, like, she
Yeah.
just really I don't know. She came through in a big way.
Yeah. But I mean, horror movies tend to not get too much love necessarily at the Oscars. Although I
Yeah.
think, again, with Jordan Peele's current feature film career, I think maybe hopefully that's starting to skew a little differently with the Oscars. But I was really surprised that Barbarian, I kind of thought
Mm.
that might squeak in as like an original screenplay because I really
Yeah.
saw a lot of critics focusing on the craftsmanship of that story and that screenplay and the structure to it is really unique and interesting. Long shot getting Justin Long in there as supporting actor or something, but
Yeah.
I was floored by him because like I've never liked him as an actor, and I was just like, oh fuck, he's in it. And then what he does with that character is like, whoa, you have
Yeah.
range. I was surprised, but at least like the story there, I thought like, okay, well that may get something.
Yeah. There's one film that it played at Sundance and it also played at Cleveland International Film Festival this year. I thought maybe could have been it was always probably once again a dark horse pie in the sky.
Sure.
But it was called Cha Cha Real Smooth. I thought
Oh yeah.
it deserved maybe a screenplay consideration, and then also Dakota Johnson. I thought could have been a great supporting actress
Hmm.
pick for that film. She has to show like a pretty good range that we haven't really seen from her before. She was also a producer on the movie, so
Oh
you could
okay.
tell like she really had a passion for the project. I think.
Sure.
I think there's some people who find the lead actor who is also the writer director a little bit annoying.
Hmm.
Actually, when I was watching it at SIF, there were quite a few people who were like, "Oh, I can't stand this kid," but I thought he was like very charming.
Yeah.
But she is, I think, the standout as far as acting in that movie.
Correct me if I'm wrong here too. The other one that kind of surprised me because there was so much talk ahead of time was RRR.
Oh
And it
yeah,
got song nomination.
yeah,
Is
it
that
got
it?
nominated for
Okay.
not to, and India decided not to submit it as their international selection. They
Oh, interesting.
they submitted a movie that also played at Cleveland International called it's called like it's almost like I forget the name of the movie. It's like film is in the title, and it's very much like India's version of Cinema Paradiso. And I watched it, and it was great. I thought it was really good, but from what I've heard, there is a split in India's cinema. You have a north and a south,
Yes.
essentially. So the Bollywood films supersede sometimes the Tollywood films, which is what RRR is.
Right.
But then you can argue the movie that they ultimately submitted, which is I'm just going to call
It's the last film show.
The Last Film Show. Yeah,
Yeah.
The Last Film Show is like neither a Bollywood or Tollywood. It happens to be like a straightforward narrative without song and dance and everything. But RRR, I think maybe if it was nominated in that category, would stand a huge chance to win. But it seems like All Quiet on the Western Front is the international film of the year.
Well, it has I think they have is Triangle of Sadness is Best Picture as well.
Oh, correct,
So
correct.
okay.
That's his English language debut.
Okay, yeah, okay, gotcha. Okay. So true foreign language spoken in the movie, we've got All Quiet on the Western Front
Yeah,
in the Best Picture and best what is it, international feature as well.
yeah.
Remember correctly. Okay, interesting.
I have one last. Sorry, I have one last snub for this year.
Yeah, what's that?
Decision to Leave. Park Chan Wook's film was overlooked in every
Oh
category.
yeah,
That was a magnificent film.
yeah. It's so. Is it more or less infuriating to you if it's entirely forgotten, like Decision to Leave was, or like Babylon, which I think got like maybe some production design or
Yeah,
like a couple of tech awards, best original score, looks like best production design. You're like, okay, so you saw it. What the hell?
right.
Like that feels like
Yeah.
it may be almost more infuriating to me.
No, you're right. Gosh. Yeah, it's somewhat in the middle because it's like, yeah, I mean, Babylon showed up probably where I would have put it, but yeah, I don't know what, even Margot Robbie gives her freaking, she like goes way above and beyond for that movie, but I don't know. Maybe it was just, I think we talked about it last episode, the recency bias. Like, that movie was one of the last to get released, so maybe not enough people
Oh yeah.
saw it. That could be one of the cases. So I don't know. Sometimes I just don't know what the people are thinking, or maybe has she shit in a lot of people's cereal? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe it's well, I don't know. Like we'll speculate on Babylon once I've seen it and can talk
Yeah.
about it. So, but no, that it's interesting. I think it was on like the Cracked podcast years ago or somewhere. I remember hearing about it. It had to have been on some film podcast at some time where they were hypothesizing why don't we do film awards like 5 years after the year.
Oh yeah.
And so that would get rid of this recency bias where either like, and it could work either for or against a movie. I like picking on Shakespeare in Love because I don't think that should have ever won Best Picture. I don't think it should have even been nominated.
Oh
Fine if
yeah.
you like it, whatever. But,
Sure.
there's quality cinema from that year that should have been celebrated. And yet somehow because of campaigning and who knows what behind the scenes shenanigans, it was, what's his name after all? Who knows?
Right.
You get in there and you get an award for a film like that. Whereas if you waited 5 years, I don't think Shakespeare in Love would have even been in the conversation about that film year. So
Yeah, and some movies I think get sometimes hurt because of how the studio put, they waited to the very very last minute. Like Women Talking, it still got nominated for Best Picture,
mhm,
but United Artists, MGM, decided to like not put it out in markets like us, Cleveland,
sure,
until last week, So it's
yeah,
like, I know like then there's probably been plenty of screenings for LA, New York people,
mhm.
but I'm not, I wasn't surprised when it only got two nominations instead of maybe potentially a lot more, had more people had the opportunity to see it.
Well, that's true too, because you want to create because the voting members of the Academy aren't like in some isolated bubble where they don't get the internet or anything. Like if there's buzz and there's chatter around it or people are celebrating it
Right.
or talking about it, I feel like that's going to add to how everybody sees movies. Like there's hype around them. Your friends are talking about it. You're seeing stuff
Yeah.
online. You can't wait because of the people involved in the movie or whatever. So it almost like robs the movie of having some momentum or some hype to it
Right.
from the public's perspective as well too. So, huh. Interesting. Well, that's probably enough complaining for now about 2022. Let's
Yeah.
take a look back in history at Oscar snubs. Any actually, if I can start with an honorable mention, Mike, it ties directly into what you were
Absolutely.
just saying. So, speaking of the transition to talkies, and you mentioned Singing in the Rain, that to me is going to be one of those movies that I always think of like I love a musical. I love like that golden era of Hollywood musicals. I think it just because I'm a film geek and it deals with the transition from silent to sound films. It's one of my, I mean, I'd probably put it like top 10 just American films I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's iconic in the public consciousness as being like one of the musicals. You've got Stanley Donen, Gene Kelly also co-directing. You got the Freed unit going strong. It's in glorious Technicolor. The songs are amazing. They get stuck in your head. I mean, Singing in the Rain is like if you're going to do a montage of Hollywood musicals, you've got to have Gene Kelly singing in the rain, in the fucking
Yes. Oh
rain,
yeah.
in puddles. You got to be there. And when you go back and look at the history of it, it got nominated for Jean Hagen, which is fine. She's great as Lena Lamont, speaking of not being able to transition to talkies very
Yeah.
well. And then Lenny Hayden for best scoring of a musical picture. There's no best
Yeah.
song. There's no Gene Kelly. There's no Stanley Donen. There's no production design. There's none of the stuff that makes that
No
movie
best
iconic and
picture.
has lasted. Yeah. There's no Donald O'Connor. There's no Make 'Em Laugh. I mean, oh my God. It's still infuriating because even I knew it had some nominations. I'm like, let me look that up before I bring it up on the episode. And I was like, wait, 2? I was really ahead of my head that it was like 5 or so. I was
Yeah.
like, Gene Kelly has to be in there. Song has to be in there. And it just didn't win. Then I was like, it not only just didn't win the 2 it was nominated for, it's baffling the 2 it was nominated for.
Yeah. Seeing Babylon made me watch Singing in the Rain.
Mm-hmm.
It might make you want to rewatch it too.
Well, I'm ready.
Whenever you see Babylon. But yeah, so I looked up the Best Picture nominees that year. I was like, oh, for sure, like that must have had like 10 or 11 nominations.
Yeah.
And looking at the other movies that were nominated that year, High Noon.
Okay. Oh, that's legit.
Definite classic. But most of the other films, very forgettable, I thought.
Yeah, The Greatest Show on Earth, Ivanhoe, Different Moulin Rouge, and The Quiet Man. Not that they're bad. Not that they're bad. Just,
And apparently, Greatest Show on Earth inspired Spielberg, to become a filmmaker. But
right.
But the Ivanhoe, yeah. I mean, I think I remember watching it in like an English class or something. But yeah, it's like I don't know. Like you couldn't make room for that.
Well, also too, because that's a time period. Sorry, we can move on for this. I don't need keep just complaining about Singing in the Rain. But it was also a time when things were split in the Academy, where you not only have best cinematography, but it's best cinematography black and white, best cinematography color, best art direction color, best art direction black and white. This is a poppin' Technicolor musical.
Yeah,
what? It's crazy. So, all right, my Singing in the Rain rant done. Mike, what's one of your honorable mentions?
So my first honorable mention is, we had talked a little bit earlier in the episode about the bias towards horror. And while this movie did get 4 nominations,
okay.
I think the most egregious snub is from the movie Psycho, Anthony Perkins in Best Director or Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor, one of the two, whichever. I don't know, maybe Best Actor.
Best Actor,
say.
yeah.
How the hell can you watch that movie? And I mean, Janet Leigh got nominated, rightfully so. And Alfred Hitchcock got nominated for Best Director. But how could you not nominate Anthony Perkins, who really gives it his all in this creepy performance? That mind-boggling, a little shocking. I mean, there was a lot of. I mean, that particular year, I think that was Jack Lemmon won for The Apartment, which is wonderful movie.
Actually,
was
no, it was Burt Lancaster for Elmer Gantry.
Oh, okay.
But Jack Lemmon was nominated.
Jack Lemmon was nominated. Okay, yeah. Shoot. Okay. So anyway, I mean, he's a legend as well. Burt Lancaster, of course. But yeah, the fact that Anthony Perkins. But anyway, I mean, obviously, I would think most people who are listening to this podcast have seen Psycho. But I would highly recommend it if you haven't. Just the way how it was shot in the black and white, and the way how it kind of unveils, and now it's like everybody kind of knows the twist at the end, but I'm sure at the time when it came out it was shocking. And the shower scene, of course, there's a documentary just about the shower scene itself.
Yep.
But that's just one they should have. Shame on them.
So much shame on them, Mike, that we actually have our first overlap in the history of our show.
Nice.
I felt it so strong when I was looking that up. I was going, wait a minute. Are you kidding me? Because I knew, I'm like, okay, I don't want to do the Hitchcock. That's an obvious Google search. Oscar Snubs. You're going to see Hitchcock never won.
Yes.
And I was like, all right, well, Hitchcock, what do I think of? Like The Birds? No, that's a concept. Like I was thinking of his other ones. I was like, oh, like the most iconic acting role, in my opinion, coming out of any Hitchcock movie is Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates in Psycho. Yes. So much so that when I see him, and I think he's on the record talking about it, getting other parts later in his career was like, he can't live down Norman Bates.
Yeah.
Can he play like a romantic lead? Yes, he's capable of that. But if you've seen Psycho, it's hard to ask the audience to look past that role. It's so iconic and so disturbing that it wasn't even nominated. That said, like, up against Jack Lemmon, you're up against Laurence Olivier, Spencer Tracy, Burt Lancaster. It's a stacked year. I get it.
Yes.
But fucking Psycho, and oh my gosh, was he terrifying in that?
Yeah, so amazing.
Yeah. And also, because I was just looking up some of the Psycho stuff before this episode, I was looking at, I'm like, okay, so I was assuming there was a Best Picture nomination because Hitchcock was nominated, but it wasn't. It was one of those years where it was split, where you didn't have Psycho as Best Motion Picture, but you had Hitchcock as Best Director. So it was strong enough the Academy was like, we're going to give him the Best Directing nod.
Yeah.
But the picture's not going to get nominated. And you're like, well, okay.
Yeah.
So but, it seemed like it should have gone to him as director, but it didn't get it that year or any year.
Yeah. No, I mean, and like, but I think ultimately, time has been great to that movie where know, it's played at repertory theaters, probably every year since it's been out. So, yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it doesn't necessarily need that Oscar win in the history books, but it's in the people's hearts where it counts.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or in my terrified brain of like, even as a kid watching that movie on VHS, like I knew like, oh, it's the shower scene and there's the twist, and all that stuff. Like I knew all of it. And I was like, still works.
Yeah.
Still works. It's just visceral thrills in a genre. So what's your other honorable mention, Mike?
So my other honorable mention is from 2017, but I think it officially came out in the United States in 2018, is Paul Schrader's First Reformed, and for Ethan Hawke's performance in that film. Now, Paul Schrader, I could almost do a whole episode on snubs of Paul Schrader. True. He finally got his first nomination for that movie for screenplay, but he's written the screenplays for Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, and Last Temptation of Christ. You name it. He's done some great work. So he was always kind of snubbed, but I thought Ethan Hawke in this particular film, Ethan Hawke, I think is a fantastic actor. Sometimes doesn't get, I think, enough credit that he deserves. But that particular film blew me away when I watched it.
Yeah.
I was just, there were so many things that were happening in it, but he's very grounded. But then like towards the end of the film where he kind of goes off the edge, he kind of has his Travis Bickle moment, I guess. I was stunned by his performance, and I think he got like nominated almost every other place, maybe like Independent Spirit and other critic awards, but just did not get the Oscar nomination. And maybe because the movie was too small, maybe some people found it too weird or too disturbing, but man, he really knocked it out of the park in that movie, I thought.
I completely agree. I'm married to an Ethan Hawke hater, so I end up defending him very, very strongly. Like, oh, he's such a greasy creep, like whatever. He can do it all. But honestly, if you would have just said like, hey, First Reformed, how many nominations did he get? I would have said screenplay, actor. Like it's not in my head the way it's in your head. I was like, oh yeah, that has a bunch. And then you're like, it doesn't have any. I'm like, I'm double checking that.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
I had it in my head as like that was an award at least nominated movie, especially that role too. I would have been like, oh yeah, he was nominated.
Yeah.
Huh. What I'm trying to figure out is, wait, has Ethan Hawke? Did he win Training Day? Was that it?
He has never won
an Academy Award.
I think he was nominated. I think you're right. I think he was nominated for Training Day. I think he was also nominated for Best Supporting Actor. In Boyhood.
Oh, Boyhood, yes. And oh yeah, okay. Now I'm jogging my memory because also being a Richard Linklater fan, screenplay for second and third before movies.
Correct.
I think. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So like he hasn't, obviously he's had his brushes with Oscars, but no, this was the one I think that like looking who won that year, I think he could, that would have been my pick personally.
Yeah, for sure. Also just like the punch of that narrative, but also that his arc in that movie, like his performance and where it goes is just devastating. God, picture the role when he actually ends up winning an Oscar.
Oh yeah.
Like how intense is that one going to have to be?
Yeah.
Can't be horror though. Can't be any of his horror stuff.
Right.
And he does some interesting horror, but yeah.
Any other for you?
I just had Psycho. That was my other one, but I'll do a quick shout out. Just because it's obviously equally iconic, and I can't believe it didn't win. And he just passed away, so I'm pretty bummed. But Ray Liotta in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Another one of those Scorsese tied into Paul Schrader, obviously, like 1980 should have been in there with Raging Bull, whatever, should have been in there in Goodfellas, whatever. Look up the movies that Scorsese has lost to over the years with his projects, and you'll just you'll get pissed.
Yeah.
And that one, like, Ray Liotta will never like live down like the 80s coked out Goodfellas persona in any movies. He's in Operation Dumbo Drop, and I'm like, what? He's got to be on cocaine in the background, right? Like, it's just such a, it's like that when you first discover a new band and you're like, oh my God, this band is amazing. That album's probably going to be your favorite. No matter what they do the rest of their career, it's that one that got you into that band. And I feel like that's probably the way Ray Liotta and Goodfellas is in my brain. So can't believe that wasn't an Academy Award winning performance, but
right.
Whatever. So, Mike, what did you end up picking for your Watch Challenge Oscar snub selection?
Yeah, so this one was a movie that I was for sure that I had watched, but then realized as I was watching it, I had not, like all the way through.
Okay.
Maybe partially because of its length, but I decided to go with 1994's Hoop Dreams by Steve James.
It begins with a game, with a basket and a ball. It becomes a journey of heartbreak and hope. From city streets to the brink of fame.
Isaiah Thomas!
The amazing story of two boys and two families struggling against the odds.
My mother, God bless her, she's always said to me, this America, you can make something of your life.
Against the system.
You have to realize you can make their team win.
To make a dream come true.
All I ever dreamed about was playing in the NBA.
And which is a documentary, and it was nominated, I believe, for editing, but it was not nominated for Best Documentary Feature. And not to say that this movie, it didn't have it definitely had two huge advocates in Siskel and Ebert, who both named it their top movie of '94. Recently, I rewatched a lot of old Siskel and Ebert episodes, and this was one. It's like I think they had like 2 or 3 episodes dedicated just to this movie.
Yeah.
For anybody who has not seen it, it is about two young men, William Gates, Arthur Agee, who are have great talent, and you're followed through their high school years as they both of them go kind of like different directions, but they're very talented at basketball. But then there are certain aspects where especially one person, I don't want to spoil it but it is kind of older, but yeah, boy, it really is a powerful documentary, and it's like I cannot believe that movie. I don't know, maybe it's because it was about something in Chicago and doesn't attract to LA or New York, but my God, how could you not pick that movie? It should have been nominated. It should have won, but it is such a great documentary. And I'm glad that I finally just sat down, watched the whole thing. You can find it on HBO Max right now. But Steve James is a wonderful documentarian. He's with Cartman Films, and got to meet him very briefly at Cleveland International a few years ago, with a movie called The Interrupters, which is another wonderful documentary. But that one was like, really tough. But it was just like getting to shake his hand for a second. It was just like, bowing down to him. But but now I'm embarrassed that I realized I didn't watch his most famous film until.
He's also really tall. He's a really tall dude.
Yes.
I got shook hands in the hallway because he was also at the festival for Stevie
Yes.
documentary he did as well.
Yes.
And then, of course, Life Itself, 2014, like the Roger Ebert story, spectacular documentary, and an overlook that's so egregious, Mike. It was also my pick.
Finally.
Finally did it.
Marshall got here because of one reason. Arthur A.G. Look at this man. He just explodes, Dan.
I may have seen the next Isaiah Thomas. William Gates. Put it in your memory bank, ladies and gentlemen. William Gates.
Again, this speaks to like my shitty memory that if you would have been like Hoop Dreams, 1994, I'm like, oh yeah, it was best documentary winner. 100%. I would have sworn it was the best documentary winner that year. So, I'm poking around, looking up, and I saw somebody's list of like, oh yeah, Oscar snub. I'm like, snub for what? Like they want best picture? And I was like, you gotta be shitting me. And then I went back and I was reading what Roger Ebert was writing at the time. When it came out. So obviously like Steve James, Chicago guy, Roger Ebert, Chicago guy. I don't remember who it was, but somebody got Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel to sit down and watch the movie before it went to Sundance.
Yeah.
And so it was like, it's not like it's illegal to do that, but like they wanted to build a good campaign, and they got, two like the most famous critics of the time, possibly still, to see it. And we're just like floored by it. And like you said, they did at least one episode. And then I think they were also just really, really wanting to campaign for it during Oscar season. Like, people, you've got to go see this movie. One of the reviews I read for Ebert, I think it was actually an anniversary review, like its 10-year anniversary or 20-year anniversary, mentioning still like it's the way people say like, oh, the great American novel, is Catcher in the Rye, whatever, Infinite Jest, whatever. Roger Ebert is like, this is the great American documentary. Like, it's just so much about what it means to like be in the culture and the society and the zeitgeist of America at that point in time. Shot for, what was it, like four years at least, because it's their whole high school career. Was supposed to, I love the fact that it was supposed to be a 30-minute short. You're like, really? But that Steve James talks about that too, where like when you're doing documentary subjects, like when do you know when you're done shooting? And he's talked about that because I think it's the commentary track for Hoop Dreams, he mentions like, well, it's supposed to be a short, but then we're like, well, the natural thing would be to follow them through high school because they're at this elite, they were recruited to this elite high school. I think their coach was like some famous NBA player's coach, like when he was in school. So like, this is where you go if you want to be a star, like basketball player. It's like it's the tops there. And then they scraped together money. And if I remember correctly, they shot it on video too, which was kind of unheard of for the 90s.
Right. Yeah, it definitely, it was a little jarring at first when I started watching it, because I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely like early 90s video. Like it felt like like I used to watch a lot of Degrassi when I
right.
Which I think it was shot on film, but it had just kind of like this more PBS look, I guess.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Maybe it wasn't cinematic enough for the documentary branch of the Academy or something.
Well, so I looked into that a little bit, and I guess Ebert and a whole bunch of filmmakers, specifically Barbara Koppel, were like livid with the Academy. Like, what the fuck? And they put so much pressure on the Academy. They actually did an investigation and made public their results. And I guess, again, keep in mind, folks, this is like the 90s. So this was not like, let's send you a link to a screener or something. These were Academy voters that came to watch, presumably like in person in some sort of a screening room. And I guess the documentarian folks, they had a system, the nomination committee, had a system where they each had a flashlight. And when they gave up on a film, they would just like shine their flashlight at the screen, I guess. And then other people would be like, either they would join in or not. Guess how many minutes into Hoop Dreams the documentary, the nominating committee lasted in Hoop Dreams? Again, just for context, it's 171 minutes long. Guess how many minutes it took them to be like, we're done?
35 or?
It was 20, supposedly.
Wow.
Like, I was like, what? So apparently, like, there was so much of a controversy about it. They had the Academy's executive director. They even released the voting results from whatever the Price Waterhouse, whatever.
Cooper or something.
Yeah, them.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to see what voters, because it's like a rank system of 0 to 10. And a small group of members, I got the quote here, a small group of members gave zeros to every single film except the 5 they wanted to see nominated, which you're like, what the? Come on, that's not how this is supposed to work at all. You're like, what a dick move. and they gave 10s to those 5. So it completely skewed the voting, which you're like, also have a better fucking process for voting. Come on.
Yeah.
People are going to be children about it. Then you're going to have to, weight it properly or whatever.
I have heard there are certain branches of the Academy that are notorious for being different, like the international branch, and the documentary branch, and then the director's branch can sometimes go against, like, say if like DGA nominated 5 people, the Directors Guild usually, or the Directors Branch will usually always find, a foreign person to get nominated or something, to throw it off a little bit. But that's very disheartening to hear. But obviously that movie, I think, will thrive in the pantheon of great documentaries, and the fact that Criterion has it, and it did pretty well, I would say, for a documentary box office wise as well. So it's like, that had, at least gives it some vindication. And I'm sure at some point it'll probably get in like the National Registry or something like that. But yeah, that's just.
Yeah, I checked that too. It is. It went in 2005.
Okay, good.
Officially preserved as culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. And yeah, I looked up, it had almost 12 million, I think, worldwide box office. So like, that is not too shabby for a 170-minute documentary. But also, like, it didn't take me too long. But my first watch was with my dad, who's a huge basketball fan. Like, he was in from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like, and so I was kind of feeling off his vibes, and I wasn't that into basketball. But like, you get wrapped up in William and Arthur's story, I think, pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And it propels you, and you see the growth. I think it's edited at a clip. They had 250 some hours to go through and put it into 171 minutes. And like, I mean, it's a long movie, but like, once you settle into it, like, I don't think you feel the running time. It's really well paced. It's pretty engaging the whole way through. There's natural drama to the individual games, let alone their ambitions, let alone like how they're play struck. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, no, great. It's so good.
But I was so livid when I was like, that won. No, it didn't. Oh my God. I gotta study my Academy Awards a little bit better, because I have a whole fictional narrative in my head of movies that Ethan Hawke has won, Hoop Dreams has won.
Right.
Whoops.
Well, it took 26 episodes, but we finally synced it up. And so our official watch challenge picks for Oscar Snub is Hoop Dreams. Aaron, what challenge do you have in front of us for next time?
Well, it was my pick up for next time. So one, we're in February, so we have Black History Month going on. And one of my all-time favorite American filmmakers is Spike Lee. And we haven't tackled Spike Lee yet. So we are going to be doing Spike Lee films on our next challenge. I do promise, I've watched a bunch of Spike Lee movies, but he's one of those directors that I don't want to be done with his oeuvre. Yeah. So there are some like critically acknowledged masterpieces of his that I have not seen. So I'm going to do something that I haven't seen as my watch challenge there. I won't embarrass myself with some of those titles just yet, but I will mention them in the next show.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of dive into some of the ones that I haven't seen either. If you want to send us your picks for Spike Lee films or suggest a topic or genre you'd like covered on a future show, please email us watchchallengepodcast@gmail.com or in the links in the show notes.
And until next time, folks, rate and review the show in whatever podcast app you are using at this moment, and we'll see you with the next challenge.